Brr. Well, that was an unmitigated disaster of a final quarter. Welcome to the review of Carlton's 28-point loss to the GWS Giants at Marvel Stadium. It was 12-10-82 to 17-8 110. Like, subscribe, leave a comment about your overall synopsis of what unfolded under the roof of Marvel Stadium early Saturday afternoon in what turned out to be a dreary, dreadful, despicable match of football for our football club. Inexplicable errors, that good old defensive profile coming to fruition yet again, as experts and the stats and media will tell you. Our defensive profile is amongst the best in the league. Unfortunately, that doesn't allow for context in a lot of those scenarios. So, what you saw out on the field there at Marvel Stadium on Saturday night was a culmination of what we've seen for the majority of 2025 when it comes to the way we shape the ground, the way we handle big moments, and the way we handle all the moments in the game that add up to the final score and final performance. So, a lot of coaching, tactical, and positional moves and changes to the way in which we played that game, which were, what's the word I'm looking for? Questionable. Questionable is probably the right word, I think. Harry Mackay rucking at halfback. He actually looked better in the ruck than Tom De Koning in that game. And our midfield was beaten soundly again. And we did highlight that the issue with George Hewitt being in midfield is that when it gets to the outside, and you have to really rely on your ball use as well, that we are going to fall short in that regard. And look, I suppose that's where a player like Jagger Smith will come in, but that's looking 12 to 18 months down the track. That's looking towards next season, which we probably, I would suggest we start doing. Now we've kind of got to protect the future now. On the basis of what we've seen for 2025, the team is on the precipice of the eight to a point, but definitely not a premiership threat on what we've seen so far this season when it comes to results and performances, and irrespective of what you think of our defence at the moment, because it is shambolic when it comes to the whole team and the way we set up the ground. Giants set up perfectly in this game. They had themselves cherry ripe and purely set on this match when it comes to the way in which they set themselves up on the park. They probably didn't want the game to be out of their back half for as long as they wanted, but the way they set up on turnover was spectacular, and they scored, believe it was a season high on their end anyway, 83 points from turnover. You can head to my X or my Twitter account and have a look at the little thread I've put together with regards to my overall view on this particular fixture. So if you head there, you'll get an idea into how I viewed it. So overall, the Giants came with a particular type of setup, and the way in which we played, unfortunately, fueled that setup. And we seem to be doing a lot of that. We seem to be fueling a lot of the opposition's strengths at the moment, and whether that's to do with play mentality, whether that's to do with coaching setup and personnel. I do think we are, to a certain point, I'll say, overcoached during the week, and then the moves on match day can be somewhat baffling. I will give credit to the coaching staff. They did try to change things up because it wasn't really going our way to a certain point. We weren't really able to ascertain any momentum in that particular fixture, at least up until three-quarter time. It was a very topsy-turvy, ebbing and flowing type of football match where both teams had their lick of the ice cream. And I want to go back to the way we set up. And this is actually not a pot on Lewis Young as an individual player, but I just don't see, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, of all the games and all the teams that are really up there vying for finals and premiership contention, I don't see any of them playing three talls in their forward line, with one of them being a negating forward. It just seems as though we set up like we're the underdogs every week. And I think the role that Sard plays now is not really putting his strengths on show and amplifying the performances of our team. I think he's played too deep in our back line, and it doesn't really help us either when we're going the other way. And it all just seems that when things become chaotic and when we move the ball and make the ball live and have to move the ball short and move the ball frantically, it seems as though it is by accident rather than by design. And again, some of the inexplicable errors we made on the defensive end and even on the offensive end as well just highlight a team lacking in detail around the contest, lacking in detail and preparation, setting up for the week to week scenarios because we continually get beaten by what we know is going to beat us. And again, we fueled the GWS game style uh, at a point that was almost negligible on the weekend, which is very, very frustrating when you're in the grandstand. But look, I mean, the next 3 weeks for Carlton are pretty well set up. It's a bye. And I think the state of affairs at the moment, people are talking about the buy, and even the coach referenced that it's a good time for the buy. That's how badly we're going at the moment. We're 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 praising the fact that we're not playing now, which just goes to show you how poorly we're going. So look, the first half of the season's done now. We're well behind the win loss ledger, which is very very frustrating. And as I have a sip of my lovely Bogan Dust coffee, Nescafe blend, I still think there is something in us in the back half of the season. Look, I think premiership contention's done. I don't think we can win the flag. You can forget about that this year. But there will be a run in us when we do get up and about, and I think it will come over the next 3 weeks. I'm hoping that it comes over the next 3 weeks. I think the coaching panel and a lot of these leaders at the club are very, very, very lucky that when it has become dire straits again this season, they have got a very, very favourable run of fixtures. So when it went 0-4, we had West Coast, we had North Melbourne, we garnered a little bit of momentum. We had Geelong, we got them at the right time, and Chris Scott didn't really praise us. In fact, he was very, very, he was very disappointed with the way his players played and said it was a completely off day for them rather than giving Carlton praise, which just shows you the regard with which he holds us at the moment. And then it has all fallen out from underneath us since then. And then, of course, we skip along to the next couple of weeks, which sees us play Essendon, who I don't think are much chop, but that can be summed up as a game that we've seen in the past. I think back in 2023, same game, same weekend, similar type of scenario with the coach under pressure. And then, of course, we have West Coast away, and then we have North Melbourne at the G. So, in all probability, we'll go into each match as favourite and as pretty heavy favourite, I would suspect, irrespective of what's happened in the first half of the season. We can now put that to a side to a certain point. And I think we'll probably win all three. We'll get to 7-7. The ledger will be even win-loss. And then people will start to get excited again. And then we'll go to that Port Adelaide match on that Thursday night with all the hope in the world. It'll be Hinkley versus Voss. It might even be Carr versus Voss by then. So I think, look, I'm trying to approach this more from a holistic point of view rather than looking at these week-to-week propositions. And look, we've got some sort of players to come back, but again, that's no excuse. There was more than enough out on the park to field a team that could definitely win against the Giants. But such is the flavour of this competition that if your high output players are down a percentage marker, then you're going to be found out. And some of our prime movers in various bits of that game were well and truly down. The captain, Cripps, has not really had the impact I think he's wanted over the last month and a half. George Hewitt, again, you saw his flaws exposed in against a Giants midfield that was far too zippy for him. Tom De Koning, I thought, was really, really poor. His mind and his heart look to be elsewhere at the moment. I don't think he'll be at the club next season. That's not to suggest that he's going to play poorly from now until the back end of the season, but I mean, to a point, he's a professional, so he'll hopefully rise to the occasion. But he hasn't really had the greatest of years, and Sam Walsh has been down, and I think everybody knows that as well. He's since that Geelong game, he's not quite been the Sam Walsh that we all want him to be, which is very, very frustrating. Whether or not that's because of the back, whether or not that's because of the setup of midfield and such an imbalanced midfield that it doesn't really amplify his strengths either. Adam Chera chipped away, mate. He's been consistently good this season. Not great, but consistently good. And I don't think we have enough of those players at the moment. Wiedering was he had his poorest game for a long time. Mistakes made by him that were very, very uncharacteristic, very un-Jacob Wiedering like, which I doubt we'll see again for the rest of the season. Big shout out to Sam Doherty, who had his best game as a Carlton player for, I would say, nearly 2 years. I thought he was our best on by a long, long way. Got ahead of the ball as well. Looked to have found a new lease of life this season, I think, Sam Doherty, and he'll definitely hold his spot in the team. I like the role he played as well. He seemed to look a lot freer than we've seen in recent months and recent times. So that was good to see. But he's a proud player, given what he's been through. I think a lot backed him to get out of the rut that he was in, and I think he's definitely been. I think we could definitely grant him a couple of weeks, but again, as a club, you've got to kind of look at the age, the injuries he's had, the career he's had. But big shout out to Sam Doherty, who was he'll definitely get the best on. I think when it comes to best and fairest nights, and in all the content creators in the Carlton world, I think he'll get the three votes and the 5 votes, and the highest player ratings between most of us. And outside of that, look, there's not really much else to comment. There are a lot of blokes that were down on the day, and it just look, we're just going to be repeating the same thing over and over again. We I don't think we sat too many players behind the ball, but we are playing a lot out of our back half to a certain point. And again, we just fueled GWS's game for most of the evening. And look, we've got a bye now. Great. We'll probably get some bodies back. Cottrell will come back after the bye. Orazio Fantasia will be back after the bye. Zach Williams will be welcome back. And Chincotta will be welcome back too. So there's probably, just on the basis of the form that some players are carrying and the players to come back in, you would suspect heading into the Essendon game, you would suspect that we will have anywhere between 3 to 4 changes. Jesse Motlop will come out of the team for Zach Williams. Matt Cottrell, hopefully, I think it was around 13 to 14 update for him. So he'll probably make his way into the team for maybe a player like Will White. And then Chincotta will probably make his way into the team as well for maybe one of those younger defenders, or maybe even a different midfielder. So, look, there are options in the second half of the season, but we just need to get our act together. And look, is it going to come as a result of plays we've got on the park at the moment? Probably not. I thought Cooper Lord was a clear standout. Matt Carroll was clean at ground level. He rarely fumbles the ball. Like his kicking as well. He's very aggressive, very assertive. And it was our younger kids. Will White was the most active of our small forwards outside of Lockie Fogarty. I thought Will White was very, very lively. But, even he made mistakes on the night. He's still a kid, but that doesn't absolve you from mistakes. Harry O'Farrell took his moments okay. He was a little quiet. But again, because the Giants attacked with that turnover game, it doesn't really help his defensive strengths, which is the aerial contest and jumping and flying at the ball. But when he had those one-on-one moments, Riccardi did sort of outbody him on the odd occasion. But again, that's to be expected. Riccardi's a seasoned footballer now, and Harry O'Farrell's playing his first game. So, look, overall, a really disappointing result, as we know that. Again, we're just repeating the same thing over and over again, and these senior players are going to repeat the same thing over and over again. So I would just ask everybody, I think, just to gear down a little bit. As much as we expect this team to go on and do a lot better than what they are at the moment, all we can do is go on the proviso and the basis of what they've done prior, and they're very inconsistent. Very, very inconsistent. And there will be a patch this year where performances spike in the second half. I have no doubt about that. We probably will go on a run again where we win 3 or 4, because the history has shown with this group that that's what happens. And, it may very well come up over the next month. It probably will in all probability. So, I'm expecting us to even the ledger. What that means for the rest of the season, I don't think it means a lot because we're well off the pace. But disappointing result. Look, like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think. I'm not going to harp on about this because what I've seen out on the field against GWS is what I've been harping on about for the last 6 to 8 to 10 months with this football team. So it just feels like a broken record at the moment. But good to see the youngsters stepping up to a certain point. And I thought Ollie Hollands was actually good on the night as well. He's a player that I think has gone to another level this season, and I think there's still a bit more to come with him as well. So look, we move on to the bye. I'll see you on Tuesday night on the Jumper Punch. And again, if you've got any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section here. Like, subscribe, comment, share this video around, and I'll see you on Twitter. I'll see you on the Jumper Punch on Tuesday. And hopefully everyone's rested up. And King's birthday clash against the Bombers awaits in about a fortnight's time. See you soon, guys. Go Blues.